Hello everybody, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Nick.
And welcome to It Takes Two, a podcast where two people take two movies with the same or similar plot or premise, and we just have a talk about them.
Well, we watch them first. And then
we do watch them first. Yeah. Otherwise, how could we talk about them? So our movies this week are Gordy, released in 1994, director Mark Lewis, and Babe, 1995, director Chris Noonan.
So the premise here is two movies that came out really similar, close to each other, by different studios about talking pigs.
Yeah, we love a movie about a talking pig.
Well, maybe. Let's
we
get
love
into
Babe. We love a movie about a talking pig. Oh, you don't like Babe either?
No.
Okay. Well, one of the first things I have written down about Gordy here is, it feels like it's selling me country music.
Oh my god. We'll wait to get into that. Okay, so I listen to a lot of Cecil Baldwin, and he says in the horror movie podcast number 9 thing, that the opening shots are really important.
Yeah.
And both the opening shots in this movie have nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Yes, I would agree to that.
Gordy is just B-roll of a truck driving down a country road.
Yeah, it's a real-time shot of a truck or a ute driving along while some farm animals on a farm are like panicking or doing farm stuff.
It's an animal B-roll.
Yeah, it's just an animal B-roll basically, and for Babe, it's just a whole lot of pig ornaments on a wall. Some of which have a little bit of stop motion animation. The music in the opening is what got me, because the music in the opening of Gordy is just some banjo music, some real country banjo music, and then the music for the opening of Babe is like, it feels like fairy tale stuff and like nursery rhyme kind of music.
Yeah, there's definitely more like a whimsical element to Babe than there is to Gordy. Moving down, I wrote way more notes for Gordy than I did for Babe.
Yeah, I wrote 3 whole pages of notes for Gordy. So I've like shortened them down to just like stuff that matches up on both of them, which is very little. But I do have the full 3 pages of notes to go back to. Most of my notes for Gordy were questions. I just wrote a lot of questions about Gordy. Just a lot of questions. I feel like I asked way more questions than were answered in the movie.
So we'll talk about how the pigs get involved with the main protagonists, the human protagonist, because the pig's the main character in both stories.
Yes.
In Babe, he wins a pig by guessing its weight after it pees on his shoes. Yeah. And in Gordy...
Well, in Gordy it's complicated because it depends on who you consider to be the protagonist. Are we talking Hanky? I will say, when Hanky arrived first... Actually, can I read it? I'm going to read out my notes here from the first scene with Hanky in them. So Hanky, I would argue, is the main human protagonist in the movie, but he doesn't appear in it until ages into it. Yeah. It's like a good, 30, 40 minutes before we have a Hanky.
Yeah.
So I thought he was going to be just a minor character who's in it for one scene. So this is the notes that I wrote in the first scene with Hanky. The first note I wrote is, weird little businessman. So that's my description of Hanky. Hanky is a weird little businessman. And then I said, dialogue is very unnatural. And then I said, weird mom/Hanky dance rejection scene with about 8 question marks. Because that scene is super weird. Basically, Hanky is a small boy, and his grandfather tells him to ask his mom to dance, and then she, at the same time, is being asked by her boyfriend to dance and is standing up, walking away with the boyfriend. So the child stands up, walks around the table, just goes, Mom! Mom! And then looks really sad and sits back down. And I don't know why that... I guess it was supposed to tell us that his mom doesn't care about him. I don't know. It was a really weird...
So what I've written down is screenwriters don't understand how children talk to each other.
Yeah, well, that's the dialogue being very unnatural.
Yeah.
That was so weird.
Okay.
Just very jilted.
The premise of Babe is he's a pig who gets adopted onto a farm that doesn't have pigs.
Yes.
Or in Gordy, it's the farm that he's born on is sold.
Yeah.
And the rest of his family, father who makes him promise to look after the rest of his family, is off to the meatworks.
Yeah. So how Gordy meets Hanky is Gordy gets separated from the rest of his family.
And then goes on a big
adventure. on an adventure to try and find his family, but then gets sidetracked by meeting a young girl who is a country music singer who apparently Britney Spears auditioned to play. Fun fact. Which probably would have made a minorly more interesting movie, but not much. Do
you want my note of what I've written down there?
About which part?
White girl takes pig from only black guy's truck. There were 2 African American characters in that entire movie.
And one of them was the
one of them was the guy who's picking, because how Gordy ends up in the truck is there was a basket full of blankets at a church
to go to families in need.
Yeah, and then
homeless.
Yeah,
families.
The pig crawls into it. The guy picks it up very carefully, not knowing air brackets there's a pig in there, but then places it like so gently.
That's because it's for the people in need, and he's a nice man.
Yeah, who a white girl steals the pig from. Yes,
the white girl does steal the pig from him, and then she makes a big deal about how she has to keep it secret from her dad. And then there's the weird scene where Gordy kisses her dad, is the only time, or maybe not the only time, but the first time that we actually spoke to each other while watching this movie, because we neither of us could hold our laughter at that moment.
Yeah. Because the dad says that was a really sweet kiss.
Yeah, I think I wrote that down like word for word as a quote, because I just thought it was hilarious. Yeah, that was a sweet kiss.
So in both the movies, they used, I was going to say pig actors, animal actors.
Mm-hmm.
Which in Babe, I think they went over the board because like the weird duck was so much like, I don't know how you teach a duck to do stuff.
Well, I know for Babe himself, they used 48 different piglets and an animatronic stand-in.
Jesus.
So, entirely possible there was some puppetry, because obviously one of the first names that comes up is Jim Henson.
Which is the only thing I wrote down for the first thing of Babe. I've got great acting pig.
48 great acting pigs.
Yeah. No, I'm saying from Gordy.
Oh, Gordy?
Yeah.
You thought Gordy was a great actor?
Well, just the animal actors were better than the human actors.
Oh my god, I just love Hanky.
Okay.
Hanky's my favourite character in the... Actually, no, I originally thought Hanky was my favourite character, but my favourite character is the cousin. I've forgotten his name. Cousin Jeff or something. I wrote his name down at some point because I was like, you know what? I really like this guy. Except that they like make fun of him a lot. Cousin Jake.
Yeah.
People make fun of Cousin Jake a lot in the movie. Like, it's like a whole thing that he's like a simpleton and whatever, and they literally make fun of him the whole way through the movie. But he like understands the pig instantly. This is the main difference between Gordy and Babe. There's a lot of differences, but the main difference is humans can understand Gordy, but it's not that Gordy in particular is a talking pig. It's that, as Gordy puts it, any human can understand any animal if they just listen hard enough.
Yeah, and children get it easier because they're simple-minded.
It's the pure of heart is what he says. The pure of heart can understand animals. Yeah. So I guess Cousin Jake is just super pure. There
were 2 main other appearances of a similar sort of style that appeared. In Gordy, they had like a map that appeared every time that they went from port A to B.
Yeah.
It's sort of the talking pig version of showing you an orbiting planet in Star Wars, because that's what they do. They do an orbiting planet, and then they're like, this planet, and then you're like, down.
Yeah. There's a lot of little sort of like southern towns in it, because they go through Arkansas and then up into Missouri and then over to Kansas and then up to Nebraska.
And versus in Babe, where it's like 3 singing animatronic or
the little mice. Do you know what? Because this was one of the things that came up in the IMDb trivia for Babe. Because I really like that it's like that story storybook chapters.
Yeah.
Apparently, originally they didn't have it read out. They didn't have the audio, but when they played it for test audiences, the children couldn't read. So every time the story chapter came up, the kids would all go, "What does that say?"
Mm-hmm.
So they added in little mice singing and saying the names of the chapters so that kids could understand it without being able to read, which is actually quite sweet.
There's a note in both here, which is animal meat industry bad.
Yeah. That's actually one of the notes I wrote about Babe was how many vegetarians were made by Babe. So I did actually research that in the end, because apparently after the release of Babe, US pork sales dropped by 20%.
Wow.
And James Cromwell, who is Farmer Haggett, is that his name? The main character in Babe, he went vegan after. Apparently he was already vegetarian. He's a lifelong vegetarian, and he went vegan after filming Babe.
So yes, when Gordy meets Hanky, he's drowning in the swimming pool, which is why that now under, I think, certain legislation you're required a fence.
Right.
I'm not because of the movie, I'm just saying in general you're required.
Yeah, Gordy got that legislation passed.
Yeah, well done, Gordy. But, so Gordy saves Hanky from drowning.
Yes.
And there's another proof of humans being stupid, which comes up whenever you do first aid training in New Zealand at least, is people will just stand around and no one will actually help because they just assume everybody else is helping, and that's exactly what happens in the pool.
Yep.
The pig saves the kid because everyone else is like doing interviews because there's like lots of reporters. It's like the governor's
it's like
gala or something.
Yeah,
he's trying to get re-elected.
The little girl and her dad who were looking
country singers.
Yeah, who were looking after Gordy. They're the country singers, and they've come to sing at this governor's gala thing, or whatever.
Yeah.
At at Hanky's family home, I think.
I guess so.
Because Hanky is a little boy who is from a super wealthy family who own a whole load of industries and brands and corporations, including a sausage factory,
which is hidden,
which is a whole plot line at some point later on.
Yeah.
Because by coincidence, it is the same sausage factory, spoiler alert, that Gordy's family are going to.
Yeah, because otherwise it wouldn't be a kids movie.
Yeah, and we do get like a rush to the sausage factory scene where I was wondering why they weren't like just calling them and shutting it down since they own it. And then it's okay because Hanky, the little businessman, gets a car phone and starts calling in the 90s. He's like 10 years old or something, and he's got a car phone to shut down the factory that he owns.
The other difference is obviously where they're set. So one's American, one's British, English, UK-ish.
Filmed in Australia, Babe.
Yeah.
But they all drive on the other side of the road.
What? I didn't even notice that.
I don't know. I don't know where it's supposed to be set.
Mm.
I feel like it's very ambiguous.
It smells of like what screenwriters think like rural England looks like, because all the walls are like not hedgerows, they're stone.
Right.
And the boundaries on people's properties aren't straight lines.
Yeah.
So that rules out New Zealand and America and Australia.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very ambiguous. Because they don't drive, because they drive the same side of the road in Australia and Britain, but it was a big thing in the IMDb trivia of it that it was filmed in Australia, but they drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they do that, because I don't know where it's supposed to be set.
There's two other notes that are kind of unrelated to plot and purpose in here that I'm just going to go over, which are related to my notes in Babe, which was Hugo Weaving is great, and Council of Elrond. The Council of Elrond happens in Babe. Because Babe, Babe wants to like not be a pig, he wants to be a sheepdog.
Yeah.
And Rex, who's played by Hugo Weaving, who's the sheepdog, literally has like a council meeting where they plan on destroying the hopes and dreams of a small pig, with all the other animals basically laying down like the the line of the law, the animal law.
Well, the big thing that's repeated in Babe is that's the way things are, or that's just how things are, whichever way it's phrased. I think that was the big thing about it for me, or one of the big things. I feel like there's a few big differences, and one of the things is that I don't know what the message of Gordy is beyond let's listen to this country music. Whereas the message in Babe is A, look how horrible the meat industry is.
Yeah.
And B, look how horrible classism is. Like there's a huge social commentary about classism and about people doing the things they're supposed to do, and about the sheepdogs, who Babe meets initially and thinks are really lovely, and they're really lovely to him because they see him as an equal. They're really shitty to the sheep because they say that sheep don't understand, and they have to talk down to them and they have to shout at them, and the sheepdog, who is supposed to be like his mother figure, telling him to bite the sheep because that's the only way they listen, when in reality,
it's interesting too because there's those parts about Babe, but then you take the other movie, Gordy, where there are so many subplots within the main plot, it's so confusing. So you get this whole plot of like Gordy's trying to find his family and rescue his family who have gone up north, which is just like a blanket, like they've gone up north.
Yeah. Up north where pigs don't come back from.
Yeah. The look on your face is it.
No, that's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what they say in the movie over and over again. Up north where pigs don't come back from.
But the side stories within like Gordy is so bizarre. So Hanky's mother is engaged apparently, or dating, at least dating.
Yeah.
The head financial officer for the grandfather, and he comes off as like a Sunday morning cartoon character, like villain.
Yes.
Because I've got fourth wall break as a note in here, because I do remember this weird fourth wall break where he looks directly into the camera and is like talking his evil like plan.
Yeah.
He had a whole bunch of weird henchmen, including the limo driver, who were like bumbling idiots.
My favorite part of that was that there's like a bit where he's like talking in the back of the car, or maybe Hanky's talking in the back of the car. I can't remember at this point, but there is whoever is driving the limo at that point is just looking in the mirror, doing like
I've got limo driver eyes.
I can't remember what I wrote about it. I just remember being like, wow, okay, I definitely wrote it about it. But like he literally is just making these weird eyes the whole time. You see, the problem is I can't find notes on this because it's literally 3 pages of notes.
So the whole premise is a financial advisor, the boyfriend, is trying to get the mother's modelling career off the ground, and then there's like the grandfather who's the head of the CEO of the company, trying to decide between supporting his basically useless daughter and supporting the hero pig Gordy with their new marketing campaign. And there's 2 parts that bug me about this, because I've got them written down, is pig is smarter than the people.
Yes.
And kid Hanky knows how high-end cameras work. Because he just walks over and is able to operate the camera.
Yeah,
and I was like,
just does it.
What?
Yeah, so there's so many... It's really hard to explain Gordy because there's... I was going to say Hanky. It's really hard to explain Gordy because there's so many plots. So it's like, A, the plot is Hanky... Or, I keep saying Hanky. Gordy trying to find his family. B, plot is Gordy helping this woman or this small child and her father start their country music careers. C is Hanky being the hero pig, and
Gordy being the hero pig.
Gordy, I keep saying Hanky. Gordy being the hero pig, and saving Hanky's life, and then he's given to Hanky, and then the next one is Gordy becoming this world sensation because they make him into a brand and everyone was hero pig branded everything, and then you've got the guy trying to do the daughter's modelling career, and then he's also trying to take over the company, and then it's like, why is he trying to... Does he actually love her, or is he just in a relationship so he can take over the company? And then there's the whole Gordy and Hanky escaping to get back onto plot A, because they've gone back to plot A, where they're like, oh, we're going to go find Gordy's family, but then they immediately come across the family from plot B and start doing plot B again with the country music stuff. And then it goes back to the hero pig stuff because they find out that his grandfather has died and he has to go back, and then suddenly, oh yeah, because obviously all the money is going to Hanky when the father dies. It doesn't go, the grandfather dies, it doesn't go to his daughter, it goes to the grandson, Hanky. And then it's like, but because he can't use the money till he's 18, until then the money goes to Gordy.
Yeah, Gordy becomes the CEO of this huge company.
Yeah. So then you've got this whole other plot where it's the two of them and they've got their little desk with all their crayons and drawings on it because they're making all these company decisions, and Hanky is translating for the pig because he understands the pig. So that's a whole other plot. And then that comes back into the plot of the boyfriend trying to take over the company, because then he's trying to get his goons to kidnap Hanky and Gordy, which comes up multiple times. And then it goes back into the music career thing because they're like, you can boost our music career by having the hero pig at this music thing that we're doing, or they'll only let us sing if you bring the hero pig along because we said we know him. And then it's only right at the last minute they're like, oh shit, what about his family? We forgot about them.
The other note I've got in here for Gordy, this has been a very Gordy heavy, there's just so much to unbox.
Everyone knows Babe anyway.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's pretty linear. This is all over the friggin' place.
Yes.
Several occasions I've written down white people being white.
That's because it's very heavily... it's very heavily Southern American country music people and rich governors and shit.
I've got square dancing in brackets Google later, and I didn't Google it.
Oh, that's a shame.
Because in Bay it's classical music. I've written a note down.
And I think specifically ballet music at parts. I think the part where he's like trying to be sneaky, go across to get the alarm clock in Babe. It's like a classical ballet.
The music in Babe is a lot more subtle, and it's about the scene, and it enhances what you're watching versus actually watching someone actually perform music live.
Yeah, versus, Doug Stone trying to sell his country music career by being Ginny's dad in Gordy.
Yeah. We've got white people dancing to hip hop. Black guy, second only black guy, looks very uncomfortable.
Yeah, so that's the limo driver, I believe.
Yeah, the two goons.
Yeah, one of the goons is the second black guy.
Yeah.
And it's their boss, I don't know what he does. I'm not even sure. But he's like above the goons but below the financial guy.
I think he's like head of marketing research or something.
Something along those lines, yeah. Because he was the one who presented the findings of Gordy being better at the photo shoot. Or the ads campaign, which they don't ever show what Gordy's ads look like because it's just going to be a pig on a backdrop.
Yeah.
Whereas they show this sabotage. So the guy tries to sabotage Gordy's photo shoot / ad campaign.
Which is where Hanky knows how to use a high-end industrial camera.
So Gordy the pig overhears these guys planning to change out the lens on a camera, and then he tells Hanky, and then Hanky changes the lens back, and then no one looks at the footage or the camera or the lens while they're shooting, and then they switch it for the other one, which is now the bad one, to shoot the girlfriend / daughter / mother's
slashes
thing. So then when it shows hers, it's like this weird wonky funhouse mirror kind of footage.
Yeah.
So why do they even have that lens?
Also, why is the color balance off?
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. That's also not what wide angle lenses do.
No. They just literally have like a funhouse mirror lens on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why the cameraman had that to begin with. But I also don't know why no one looked at the footage as they were doing it.
The other thing that I'd like to mention, which really stood out to me because it just made absolutely no sense in the context of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So Hanky and Gordy go to the park. The henchmen are going to kidnap Gordy because he's now the CEO of the company. They jump onto a school bus that's leaving for St. Louis.
No, they're in St. Louis and it's going to Kansas City.
That's right. So, I was the wrong way around. They are hiding on the bus they do the like cartoonish look out the back window and they're like, ooh, there they are, like drive the limo after them. And the thing that allows them to get off the bus without the bus stopping, the distraction that comes up that helps Gordy and Hanky escape the limo driver goons, is a cross-dressing armed robbery. Which is so, like, what? Like, who? Why? Why was it that? Why couldn't you just do like a stereotypical trope of like a lady wearing a short top, like walking past and be like, hi gents, and it'd been like all fine. But no, they had to go with a man dressed in a woman, and I'm not talking like, what do you call it, like standard going out, like she's wearing like the man is wearing thigh-high stockings and a short dress and not a balaclava, like a stocking, and is screaming for his getaway driver, and that's what they're distracted by.
I have no recollection of this.
You don't have what? It definitely happened. I'm not crazy.
Okay, I literally have no recollection of that happening.
Okay.
Maybe I was taking notes and I'm like, did I blink and miss it?
It was so short.
The bus did stop.
Yeah, and
they climb into a truck that's next to them.
Yeah, and it's full of feed, which then ends up
going
to
it's like corn or something.
Yeah, it goes to another farm, and then they happen to overhear where the...
No, they talk to one of the pigs.
That's right.
And the pig is like, they ask the pig if he's seen Gordy's family, and the pig is like, I wouldn't know one pig from another, we all look the same. And then Gordy's like, my mom is whatever, and he's like, oh, I saw one of those, and she had 5 piglets. And he's like, that's my mom.
Yeah.
And he's like, you better get to her quick, because she is gone to the slaughterhouse. And then Gordy goes on and does like a music career thing.
There's 2 mentions of Bill Clinton in this movie.
Yes, Bill Clinton calls them on the phone.
But the first part is when he is Pig CEO.
Yeah, when he's the Pig CEO.
There's a photo of him meeting Bill Clinton framed on the desk.
Well, if you were a Pig CEO and you met Bill Clinton, would you not put the photo on the desk?
It seems so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real sign of the time that it was filmed. And then Bill Clinton calls them at their lovely country music thing that they can only get into because they know Gordy. Yeah. Even though Cousin Jake was the one presenting it.
Yeah, there's so many weird little plants of plot that just don't. Yeah.
Gordy is a weird movie. Basically.
So they get saved, and I've written here, Do Sex Country Band. And then later on I've got Do Sex Breeze and then Do Sex Hillbilly, and I don't remember what either of those things are related to, but that's fine. They get blown like a piece of paper, like an advertisement for something? And it had like...
Oh, it's the pigs! So it's the pigs, the pigs are at the slaughterhouse, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And a newspaper blows up against the thing, and it's got like a logo, a Hero Pig logo, which has got Gordy on. They're like, all the pigs are like, it's Gordy, he's gonna save us.
It's so weird.
Yeah. It's a little weird. So one of the things that I liked about Babe was I had something planned and then I got distracted by everything that we talked about Gordy. So I'm trying to remember what I was thinking about with Babe. Oh, it's the way they frame things. So in both movies, obviously, their families go to the slaughterhouse. It happens in both movies. Yeah. In Babe, there's no stopping it. It happens, but it's the way things are framed. I think says a lot about the target audiences or how well they know the target audiences. Because in Gordy, it's just like jokes about it being a sausage factory, and then but when you're shown like what the pigs are going through from their point of view, it's all shot like a horror movie. Yeah. Which I liked about Gordy. In Babe, the slaughterhouse scene is right at or not the slaughterhouse really, but it's them going off to the slaughterhouse is right at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. But it's totally framed from Babe's point of view, and it's totally framed for a child. So it's framed like for you to understand coming from a place of innocence. Yeah. So it's like it's shot a little bit like a horror thing, but at the same time, the narration is saying, you know, they're going off to a place that must be a paradise because no one ever wants to come back from it and stuff like that. And then it's like showing the guys who work in the factory just like whipping them and pushing them into the truck to go off to the slaughterhouse and stuff. And then, you know, the whole way through, Babe, the other animals know what happens, and they're all very aware of
their own death.
Yeah, of their own death and of which animals are going to die. And, you know, the duck is a good point because his whole arc is to say, you know, he knows that if he's useless, he will be killed. So he tries to find a use for himself, so he's like crowing like a rooster, and he tries to steal the alarm clock so they don't use the alarm clock, so they have to rely on him crowing, and, you know, and his whole thing is telling Babe, you have to have a use to not be eaten. Yeah. Basically. And Babe learns, everyone kind of trots around it with Babe, and then he learns about it from the cat, who's just very direct with him. Yeah. And says, well, humans eat pigs. That's what they do.
Yeah. My job is to be pretty and...
Your job is to be dinner.
Yeah.
Basically. But it is, the whole way through, it's like, you know, it shows you what's going on, so you can see it. So, like, as an adult, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
As a child, you're probably listening to it and then seeing it and going, that doesn't look like paradise, you know? And then it's like, that doesn't look like this. But it is very much framed from Babe's point of view, and therefore from the same point of view a child would have going into it. Which is also why I was like, I wonder how many vegetarians this made, because there's probably, while it says pork sales went down by 20%, you know, in 95, I feel like overall, people who grew up with that movie are probably more likely to be vegetarian.
It's interesting, because I did write down more brutal than I remember.
Yeah.
And also sheep rustling, which I also didn't remember of the movie. Which is pretty, like, there's no point where he goes to the police or anything. It's just like, oh, well, sheep have been stolen. Yeah. Like, moving on. And even the son-in-law, I believe. Yeah. Otherwise, it was really weird. No, it wasn't son-in-law. No, his son-in-law was the daughter. Talks about how the farm's failing. Yeah. Your outgoings are bigger than your incomings. Like, this isn't sustainable. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, that's the plot of Gordy as well, a little bit, except Gordy takes place after that point, because they say that the farm is, they're selling their livestock because they can't afford to keep the farm. Yeah. And then when they're driving out, you can see this for sale sign on the farm itself. We never meet the actual farmers. Yeah. They're literally never shown. And then at the end of the movie, they buy the farm for Gordy and his family. And then they debate whether they're going to live on it with him, but, like, if they don't, they're just bought the farm for these pigs to die on. Like, I don't know what the... Yeah. Who's going to feed them?
But doesn't it show them all hanging out as, like, a new weird family now?
Yeah, they become a weird family at the end. Yeah. That was, by the way, I didn't get around to it, but when I was reading my commentary from the first hanky scene, so I said, the ones I already said, weird little businessman, dialogue is very unnatural, weird mom/hanky dance rejection scene, and then I said, why was Hanky on the diving board if he can't swim? Could they not have done the fall in a way that looked unintentional? Because he's on a diving board.
Yeah, he's sitting on the
diving board. And then he stands up and he doesn't fall, and then he goes, whoa, and jumps in the pool, and then he can't swim. So weird. And I said, Gordy is a great swimmer somehow and saves Hanky. All the news cameras on Gordy, because of course they are. Hanky might be my favourite character. And then I said, this is the end of that scene, I said, 100% Hanky's mom is going to be Ginny's dad's new wife. This is while she's still engaged or in a relationship or whatever with the original guy that we made her in with. And then obviously at the end of the movie, you know, she discovers that her boyfriend is a villain who's been trying to kidnap her child multiple times. Actually, does she even find that out?
I don't know. I think she's too vacant to know what the hell's going on the majority of the time.
Yeah, they really don't do her justice at all.
She is way too old to be wanting to be a model. It's kind of weird. Like, I think she would have given up on that whole concept and just become a drunk old white woman.
I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. I like when she comes out to do the modelling, they're like, oh my god, your outfit is beautiful. And she's wearing like a plain white t-shirt with like a dungarees made of sequins. Yeah. And that's her beautiful outfit for modelling.
The other point is... I don't know if this is actually true, but at the time I wrote, lied to CEO about holdings, pretty sure that's a crime. because they don't tell Gordy that part of the portfolio that the company owns is the sausage factory.
Yep.
Pretty sure you're not allowed to do that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to kidnap a child either.
Pretty sure you're not allowed to have a pig as a CEO.
Yes. There was a lot of problem.
I other than just how the movie ends, how both movies end, it's just been real heavy Gordy stuff because it's just Babe is real linear. Like, pig goes to farm, tries not to be a pig, becomes a sheep pig, which is a sheepdog pig rather than a sheep
classism
pig.
on the farm.
Yeah.
Tells people that you don't have to do the thing that you've been told you have to do. You don't have to fit into the box that everyone expects you to.
Yeah. Hugo Weaving chases after Isildur and finds out the secret password to getting sheep to do what you want to do, and then saves the day. And then that ending's really abrupt for me in Babe, because that's literally the ending. He wins the sheep jog competition and he says, "That'll do, pig," and then the movie ends.
Yeah, I mean, I think Babe it very much is one story. Gordy's about a dozen stories trying to happen at once.
Yeah.
Babe is one story, and it's a story of a man who doesn't quite fit the mold for what people want him to be, finding a pig who doesn't fit the mold for what people want him to be, and just having a special connection with that pig. That's what that movie's about. It's
when
very
he's
nice.
like nursing Babe back to health is quite cute.
Yeah.
And he does the dance number and all the pigs are watching.
Yeah.
All the animals.
I made a note about that, and it was something like, there is a song and dance in Babe, but it's not trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very sweet. I think, because you see a lot of the time his wife doesn't quite understand him.
Yeah, his wife seems very aloof and just real focused on her own exploits, which is related to preserves and jams or something.
Yeah. But he knows her very well, because he convinces her not to eat Babe by being like, "Oh, it's a pity we won't have the best hog at the fair next year," because she likes winning all the prizes at the fair, and she's like, "Ooh," and then she cooks a duck instead, not the duck, but a duck.
Because he's hiding in the butcher shed.
Right.
Yeah. Which was also like a real quite scary scene, because it's also there's low shots in both these movies. I think Gordy's ones were weird because they were usually related to like the same height as Gordy, but they're in like talking sequences.
Right.
Where in Babe, they're more along the lines of him doing something that's important. For an example, the whole trying to get rid of the alarm clock. It's a low angled shot.
Yeah.
And then the low angled shot from the butcher's shed, when because the butcher's block's up really high and it's all backlit, so it's all like spooky looking, and like there's like cleavers and stuff buried in the wood, and it's all up high on the screen, on the frame. I just think some of the cinematography in Babe is a lot better.
Yep, absolutely.
It's to me what took me away from Babe is definitely the better movie.
Yes.
There's no one will disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that I found the mice creepy.
Yeah, but like I said, those were an addition.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because they do feel like they're not. Yeah. They don't add to the story at all, except for reading out.
The wipes were really dated to me, because each scene ends with a circle wipe.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it was trying to be a storybook.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The other thing is that there's a lot of the difference. One of the things I know I wrote down, I'm not going to look at my notes, but I know I wrote it down, was about the narration, because it really annoyed me that when we went to watch Gordy, one of the only people I knew on the cast, I think the only person I knew on the cast of Gordy is Frank Welker, who was down as narrator, and the narration is 2 sentences at the beginning of the movie and then never again.
It seems like a waste of talent.
Well, apparently he also did the pig noises for Gordy, so that's quite up Frank Welker's alley anyway. Being that's he's famous for animal noises. Whereas in Babe, there's narration and it's it's used sparingly. It's not the whole way through, but it is used, and more often than not, it's used to show Babe's inner conflict or the farmer's inner conflict.
Yeah, it's not just
yeah
one giant. Because it's also the thing about Gordy is there's no indication of how much time has passed.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was scrolling through there, because there's a bit where they mentioned that it's a worldwide known brand or something, and I was like, after what, 3 days?
Yeah.
It's like, how is that possible?
Because his family do spend some time at the fattening yard, which is where they just get bulk fed food before they go to the slaughterhouse. But you tend to separate generations with that. But we don't need to talk about how the meat industry works, because both premises of the movie is meat industry bad. It's so weird, because obviously with Babe you get progression of like time, because he's sort of growing up.
Yeah.
But in Gordy it's like there's no progression of time. It's super confusing.
I've got a note that just says old man screaming, and I don't know what that's about. But then I've got big religious sentiment in capital letters, and I do know what that was about, because it's like, first of all, there's like the church at the beginning, but I wrote it at the point where Hanky tells Gordy that they'll find his family if they just pray for a miracle.
Yeah.
And then the RV drives by like the other family, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's you guys! I know you guys."
Yeah. It was such a weird movie. There's so many it's so weird. So weird. The
message for Gordy of Gordy is, buy my country music album. I'm Doug Stone, and also, believe in God, and we can save your family from the slaughterhouse. They don't give a shit about the other pigs, because when they get to the slaughterhouse, they just close the door right as Gordy's family were about to go in, but like other pigs just went in ahead of them and were slaughtered on screen, and no one gives. No one cares about it at all.
Because they're not the Hero Pigs family.
Yeah.
Alright, is there anything else you wanna mention?
I don't know. I feel like we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. It was the Bill Clinton parts that really
Yeah, I think that's just to date it. I assume, I didn't actually look it up, but I assume it's not actually Bill Clinton's voice.
It also just reminds me of like all the old Bill Clinton moments in The Simpsons.
Right.
Because he was heavily used in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
It's like the same sort of plot line of
yeah.
Central America mentality.
And he did on the phone in the Gordy thing, he was like, "Me and Hillary have been talking all about you," or something. Yeah. I don't know. I can't do that. Was not me trying to do a Bill Clinton impression. It was just you're
trying to do the pacing of the
the
idioms of how he's supposed to speak.
I can't do. But yeah, so I think one of the things that annoyed me was just I've got Gordy Day written in capital letters, because he does get his own national holiday, Gordy Day. Our comedic timing is excellent. That's shocking for Gordy. I don't know what point I was talking about. Oh yeah, it was. I think it was something to do with Cousin Jake at the point where the goons managed to actually kidnap Gordy at the Telecaster thing, and they drive him to a bridge and throw him off a bridge. But Cousin Jake has seen it happen, so he's followed them and he's gone down below the bridge in his RV, and he stands below it and catches them.
Yeah. The sequence where the rich financial advisor douchebag supervillain is arguing with the country singer dad.
Right.
And he's like, "Grab your banjo, or get back on your banjo."
Oh, hang on, I took that one. "Go play your banjo, goober."
Yeah.
I did write that quote down.
And
I like that.
And his response is, "Banjo, goober," and they're going to have a fight.
No, I think I remember the comedic timing part was about. I think it's after that point, so Cousin Jake goes and saves Gordy's life while everyone else is still having this country music thing, and then afterwards they're having some conversation, and then they're see if you can do this without Gordy, because he's in their mind he's dead now, and then Cousin Jake walks up and goes, "Oh, here's Gordy," and it's like, what? And it's just no time has passed, and they're and the guys are "How did that happen?"
Hand of God, hillbilly.
I did write, wow, they found that very well hidden confidential file that was in plain sight under the guy's elbow. Because it's the bit where they're trying to shut down the sausage factory, and
yeah, that would have been the point where I'm pretty sure it's illegal to withhold your from the
So the
CEO
guy's got a
company.
briefcase. Because apparently the marketing guy just carries around a briefcase full of files about all of Gordy's properties, and he opens the briefcase, takes out a file that says confidential, tucks it under his elbow, and then hands the briefcase and like, you won't find anything in here. And then they go, hey, wait a second, and they just take the file out from under his elbow.
Yeah.
It's
real 90s supervillain. Like,
yeah.
just he's surrounded by incompetence. He's incompetent.
Well, that's the second in command guy. It's not even the main guy.
But that doesn't make it. I don't even think he is the second in command, because when you have, if you look at the structure of most organizations, you have
Oh yeah, no, but he's the second in command in terms of evil villainy.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking second in command of their company.
No, so it's the main villain guy, and then the second in command villain guy, and then the goons.
Yeah.
And then the second in command villain guy goes on in the truck with him to the slaughterhouse, but he
gives them
the wrong area code for the phone number.
Then you get the weird, not appropriate for children conversation between the foreman of the meatworks and his missus.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was so and so you get this moment where it's supposed to be tension build up. Gordy's family's about to go onto the ramp to the slaughterhouse. You have them trying to ring the phone number, and on the other hand, you have the foreman at the slaughterhouse while everybody else is working, basically having phone sex with his missus.
Yeah. And that's why Hanky can't get through to them to close the factory.
Yeah.
Until the last minute.
Weird. And then the phone rings, and he's like, babe, leave me alone, I gotta do some work. And he's like, I am the CEO of this company.
I'm 10-year-old Hanky, and I'm the CEO. Shut down your factory, sir.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay, I think before we end, I took down 2 facts from the IMDb trivia of Gordy. Just every time I say Hanky, I think that's the name of the movie. One is, actually it wasn't in the trivia section, it's apparently the tagline that the movie was sold under, which is, one pig's family has been kidnapped, so he's off to the big city to find them. He's got 2 friends and 1 secret weapon. He can talk. And what I've written next to it is, what big city?
Yeah, that's a good point.
His family are in Nebraska, in Omaha. What big city does he go to? The big city, apparently on posters, they put St. Louis on the posters, but they never filmed a single scene in St. Louis.
And the only thing you see of where they are is a giant building that the company's in.
Yeah. So the way they show where they are or where they're going is all either on a weird map or written on vehicles, because we've got the gets on the school bus that's going to Kansas City and the truck that's going to Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And that's it. So what big city is he going to? He never goes to a big city. He literally does not set foot in a big city. Even if arguably he goes to or he doesn't go to Kansas City, but even if arguably he goes to St. Louis, I don't think St. Louis, Missouri counts as a big city.
No.
No offense, Missouri. Kansas City, I guess, is a decent sized city. But he don't go there. He gets in a school bus towards there and then climbs out of it into a truck to go somewhere else. So, I don't know. And then the other one was IMDb trivia, which just says, most crew members involved with the film never did anything else in filmmaking after the release of Gordy. Which I just thought was a fun fact.
Jesus.
Yeah. So they all just gave up on filmmaking.
They made their movie and were just
They made Gordy and they're like, well, we've made about 30 films now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The whole crew just gave up the ghost.
Just quit.
Yep. They went by.
Quit life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Alright.
Alright.
Until next time,
yeah.
We'll be back with another 2 movies that are slightly similar.
Yeah, and at some point in the future we will figure out how to do an outro.
Yeah. And an intro.
Alright. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.